Hello my lovelies, and welcome to the channel. How have you been? So last week I got the opportunity to work with my kayaking instructor and at a Canadian film crew. So while Hugh had them out on the water, I was there cooking for them over the fire, and let me tell you, it was a wonderful experience. I didn't get much of a chance to take any of my own footage, and hopefully I'll have some of the film crew's footage to show you soon. But this is just a wee outtake of what I got, and let me tell you, it was delicious. You remember that mustard that we soaked in apple cider vinegar there the other week? Well, here it is, and you can see that it has absorbed all the liquid. I'm going to pour it into the bowl here and we're going to blitz it up. Certainly smells like mustard. This is one of those things that, you know, I kind of wanted to do for a little while, but never really been quite sure how to go about it. And if this works out, which I think it will, and it's going to be tasty, I will be kicking myself for not doing it sooner, because it just feels really, really simple. And why would I not do something that is tasty and delicious and simple? And it's a nice thing to be able to give away as a gift to people, you know, and to have my own use, you know, for the family. We go through stages of using not a lot, but a reasonable amount of mustard. More so in the summer, probably when we're making salad dressings. But since I've started making things like quiche a lot more regularly, I did say quiche, not quiche, for those of you that know what that means. You know, I like to brush some mustard on the quiche base. It just gives it that extra flake. It gives it something a little bit extra. It was actually my auntie, who is French, who I watched do that years and years and years ago. And so now that is how I do it. We're nearly there. I'm just trying to get every little bit out because I don't want to waste anything. Right, there we go. We'll leave it at that. So this is where it gets a little bit noisy. I have got my hand blender. You could put this in an actual blender if you want to. And we're just going to blitz it. How easily this is going. I'm going to show you. I'm going to zoom in and let you see. So I'm going to add a little bit more apple cider vinegar just to loosen it ever so slightly. You don't want too much. But look at the colour change already. I don't know if you can see that. Let's bring you in. There. Those of you who have been following the channel from the beginning, you'll know what this bucket is. It's a great big bucket of honey. Now this honey here has actually started to ferment a little bit. It just means that the water content was a little bit too high when we spun it out, but that's fine. I'm going to add some of this honey into the mustard to make honey mustard. It's one of my favourites. But I'm going to start spooning this in. Now it is semi-crystallised, but that's fine because we're blitzing it up. And please excuse the washing machine in the background. It is getting ready to take off into orbit. Hopefully it will be finished shortly. I'm just judging this, and I'll give it a taste once I've mixed it all in. Now this isn't a smooth mustard like you see in the shops. This is quite like a rustic farmhouse or whole grain style mustard, but I quite like that texture. Having a bit of texture in food is not a bad thing. Just scrape that off, pop that there, and then we're going to go in with the hand blender again. It's a good consistency. I'm going to grab a teaspoon. So let's do a bit of a taste test. Now this is probably going to be really fiery. So I've got a tiny bit on the spoon. Oh wow, that is really good. Just the right amount of honey I've got put in there. So I'm really pleased. I'm going to run upstairs and get some jars, and we're going to jar this up, and then it can get stored. And this, you know, as I said, this will keep for a long time. It can get given for gifts. It can be, well, it's going to get used, and I will be giving some to family anyway because I know that they will use it. I'm so pleased I've done this, because now that I know that I can do it and how simple it is, it's something else to add into the repertoire, to know exactly what we are eating. You know, there's just something about knowing all the ingredients of what you're putting into your body that makes you feel good. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys. In my mind that makes sense. But bear with me, I will go and get jars and we will be back to jar this up. So I'm back from upstairs and I've got some clean jars. We are going to pour this in now and jar these up. I'm not quite sure how many jars I'm going to get, but we will see. we got 5 jars of honey mustard here, and I am so pleased with them. One of these is going straight in the fridge because it will be getting used, and then the others will be given out to family members and put in the store cupboard. So I think this is a really, really easy, simple thing that everybody can do. You know, it's not hard. I am very lucky that I have access to the honey, but you know, you don't have to do it on such a huge scale the way that I have. You can do smaller portions and, you know, see how you get on with it. I've got a loaf of sourdough here and I'm not 100% sure if it's going to work out. This is 100% hydration loaf, which means that it's the same weight of water to flour. So it's very, very wet dough, and I'm really, really not sure if it's going to work out. But I wanted to show you because it's okay if things don't always work out in the kitchen. And, you know, even people who cook a lot have things that don't always work out. And I'm not going to say that this isn't going to work out. It might be absolutely beautiful. But I want you to follow this process with me and we'll see if it does work out, because I do feel it's quite important to show you guys when things don't quite go to plan. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try and take this out of the banneton. It's been cold proofing, so it should have firmed up a little bit. It's still very, very jiggly, so I don't know how we're going to get on. I'm going to turn this out and try and score it. Yeah, that's just going everywhere. It's probably going to be quite a flat loaf, but I'm going to give it a score anyway, just to allow it to expand. I have a feeling this is going to be flat as a pancake, but we live and learn. I am not quite ready for 100% hydration loaves yet. I'm just going to grab some gloves and get the Dutch oven or casserole dish, wherever you come from. And I've preheated this in the oven to the hottest that the oven will go. I'm going to pop the lid back on and put this in the oven with the lid on for 30 minutes. So we'll come back in 30 minutes and take a look and see if this has risen. It's not going to be cooked in 30 minutes, but it'll give us a good indication of how it's going to be. So that's the bread had half an hour in the oven. We're going to open the door, it's awfully smoky, and take the lid off and have a look and knock the thermometer off. Well, do you know what? It has actually risen, so we might be okay. I don't know if you can see, but I did add some cheddar cheese and sun-dried tomatoes. I think we might be alright. I'm going to put this in for another 20 to 25 minutes and then bring it out, and we'll come back and have a look and see how it's looking. Seems to be that this week is full of experiments, and off we go on another one. I am going to make up a really weak chamomile tea. I'm just going to let it infuse for a few minutes and then let it cool. and I'm going to show you what I'm using it for after it's cooled down. It has to do with the garden, and I find stuff like this really, really interesting. Using one plant to help another plant. So once this is cooled, we will start the experiment. Okay, so it is not risen as well as some of my other loaves of sourdough, but it's done not too bad considering how fluid the dough was. Not a complete and utter disaster. I'm going to leave this for at least an hour to cool, because if you cut into bread that is straight out the oven, it has a tendency to go gummy. So I'm just going to have to be extremely patient and let this cool down, and we will have a look at the crumb once it's cooled down a bit. So I've been well over an hour. This is still a little bit warm, but it should be fine to cut into. So let's see what the crumb is like. It's not too bad, to be fair, given that it was such a high hydration dough. Yeah, it's nice and soft, so I think this is going to be fine. It's not been a total disaster, which I am really, really pleased about. So I'm going to cut this up and have some for my lunch. I have strained off the weak chamomile tea, very, very weak, and it has cooled down. Had my lunch. Really, really enjoyed the bread, by the way. Very good. Won't do 100% hydration loaf for a long time because I found that quite stressful. But anyway, back to the chamomile tea. What does chamomile tea have to do with gardening? It's a very, very interesting question. I saw a video by Nettles and Petals, I think it was on Instagram or TikTok, and he had said that to get his chili seeds to germinate, he soaks them in a very, very weak chamomile tea. So I thought that is quite interesting and I would like to give that a go. Because chili seeds take so long to germinate, and then the plants take ages to grow and fruit, and it's quite often it's late autumn time by the time we're ready to plant. So I have been and got a couple of packs of jalapeno seeds because we really love jalapenos, and making the cowboy candy, this is our chili of choice. And although we have a decent sized polytunnel, it's not huge, so we're as well growing things that we know will work. And the reason for soaking in the chamomile tea is, or even just in water, is because the chili seeds they've got quite a thick outer coating on them, and they also have a germination inhibitor, I think it is, to stop the seeds from sprouting in the fruit. So by soaking the seeds, that then softens that outer husk of the seed, which should, in theory, make it easier for it to germinate. Now the reason for the chamomile tea is that it is antifungal and antimicrobial, so it's going to help reduce any mold spores that might form in the soil and stop the seeds from germinating properly. Quite a lot of the times, the last few years when we've been growing them, usually half of my kitchen worktop is taken over with seedling trays, and it's very frustrating trying to juggle it all. But what we notice is that some of the leaves don't unfurl. I think maybe there's been some fungal action in there that stopped those first two shoot leaves from forming and coming out properly, and so it actually rots the seedling before it gets a chance to form properly. So we are going to go ahead and put these in and try this. You don't have to soak them for very long, 30 to 60 minutes. You can do it overnight if needs be. But I will probably soak them for about half an hour and then start sowing the seeds. I'm just going to open the seed packets. I'll see how many are actually in here. Might need... Do you know what? I think we'll try and sow both packs, because germination rate isn't always great. And you're never quite sure because of the amount of time it takes for them to germinate. You're always better putting in more than you need. It just means that if you have a really good success rate, you can always gift plants to friends or family. Now these are just going to sit here and soak for 30 minutes to an hour. The kids will be home shortly, so it'll probably be closer to an hour. One of the things that your man from Nettles and Petals said was that if a seed floats, it's probably not going to germinate. But how true that is, I don't know. We will plant all of these and see how we get on. I'm out in the polytunnel. The chilli seeds have been soaking for about an hour and I have just strained them off. This wee strainer here. I'll come out because it's a bit quieter. The kids are back from school. Hopefully the farm doesn't start making too much noise while we're out here. But anyway, we'll crack on. I have got one of these long propagator trays, and it's come with 5 6-cell trays. I'm probably only going to use 2 of these at the minute, just to get the chilies started, because 12 plants all going well is more than enough for us, and then as time goes on I can fill up those other trays. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to put some compost in here. I've got a bag cunningly disguised as a cupboard door. I'm just going to fill this up. And this is some good quality compost. Now I've spent years buying crap compost, and we've just come to the conclusion that we're better off spending the money to get something decent. Last year I bought some cheap compost and it wasn't even finished rotting down, as it were. There were just too many big particles in there, so it's just not worth doing. The seed cell trays are full of compost now, so we'll move over here down to the ground so that you can see what I am doing. First thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little hole in here. Just make some space for the seed to go in. Oh, there's a big lump of stuff there. and then we can place a seed in. So it'll come off my fingernail. Of course, this is not going to play ball. We'll just cover that over. That one come off a bit easier. Usually seeds are dry, and so you don't have this bother. There, that one went in a bit easier. I find something really, I don't know, something quite therapeutic about planting seeds. You know, new beginnings, new life, the promise of meals to come. There's actually more chili seeds here than I thought. We might have to fill up another seed tray with soil. That's fine. My goodness, that wind is really picking up out there. I don't know if you can hear that. I'm just going to get another seedling tray, fill it up with soil. I think we might be in for a rough night tonight. And then again, the wind always sounds a bit wilder up here because we're on the top of a hill. Yeah, it can be quite calm in the town, and blowing a hoolie out here. It's just the way it goes. And the last few seeds at the sieve. Get off. Put that one in there. Cover them over. I'm just going to grab a wee handful of soil to sprinkle over the top. I don't want too much, but just enough to make sure that the seeds are covered enough. And this soil is nice and damp, so you know it's going to ensure that the seeds don't dry out too much, and they've had that pre-soak, which hopefully is going to help with the germination. We're going to go into the house because I have got a heat mat in the conservatory which is going to help kickstart the germination process as well. So I bought this seedling tray inside, and I have got a heat mat down on the table here. So same principle as underfloor heating. Before I switch it on, I'm going to put some water in the bottom of the tray here. So we put the water in the bottom here. Sorry, my phone rang and I had to go and get that. And now I'm going to switch on the heat mat. It's just important, electricity and water and all that jazz. Finally, we're going to put on this plastic cover. Now, this is called a cloche, and what that does is it keeps the humidity up and keeps at a warmer temperature, which is going to allow those seeds to germinate. So it's going to be a good while before we see any movement coming through here, but this is just going to help speed things along. Because we're in the conservatory, we get daylight from every angle, so although it can be cooler in here, certainly this time of year, it's going to probably be the best place for all my seed trays to go, because they're not going to take up the kitchen counter space. but we will check back in on these chilli seeds at some point when there is any growth coming through. My eldest had a friend over this week, and she's off on half-term holidays. It's always a bit tricky when you've got other people's kids coming over to know what to feed them. But for me, pizza's always a winner. Anyway, I am going to make some sourdough pizza. I am speeding it along a bit because I'm going to put some fast-acting yeast in here too, just because time's got away from me. If I had started this dough in the morning, then absolutely it would be fine. But like I said, time got away from me. So I'm putting this dough together as I would for sourdough, but just adding that fast-acting yeast too. And this will only take about an hour for the dough to be ready to use to turn into pizzas. What I like about making the homemade pizzas is that everybody can pick their own toppings, so there's none of this, I don't like that. You know, everybody's got their individual ones, so there's no issues with, she touched my slice. And, you know, when you've got a larger family, I guess my family could be classed as larger because, you know, there's 6 of us. You know, there are lots of individual tastes and likes and dislikes, and doing something like this just it caters to everybody, and you know, it just feels a little bit special. Don't get me wrong, frozen pizzas are great, and yes, I do use them, but I don't know, there's just something nicer about homemade. In the time it takes to cook a frozen pizza, I can have a ready-made one done. Now, I know you're thinking, oh my goodness, but yeah, there's all that rising time and things like that. The actual amount of time you spend making it, you know, is no more. It's short bursts of activities. So once the dough has risen and I've rolled out the bases, it's time to get creative. Now I'm doing the older 2 girls' pizzas first, just because they don't want to eat with the younger ones, and that's fine, I get that. So this is the fun part, where you get to put all the toppings on and be a little bit creative, you know, and the girls, they actually really appreciate this too. There's Thomas getting in on the action. He wants to come and say hi. So once you start topping the pizzas, it just becomes a bit of a production line. And you can see there's a whole range of toppings going on here. We've got some Parma ham and pesto, there's pepperoni and plain cheese, because some of the kids like to eat just plain cheese pizza, and that's grand. Now the older 2's pizzas have come out the oven and they're ready to serve up, whilst the younger 3 their pizzas cook. Now it's the grown-ups' turn, and because David and I are sharing a pizza, it's slightly larger than the kids' ones, and we've got a whole mishmash of toppings going on here. We've got some Parma ham, we've got some chorizo, and there's sun-dried tomato, pesto, and just lots of deliciousness. So we were very, very pleased with this. I want to thank you for joining me this week. If you have enjoyed the content, I would be most grateful if you would hit that like button and also that subscribe button. And please don't forget to share these videos with anyone who you think might enjoy them. Until next time, my lovelies, take care.